Hi, baby boomer fans. We are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade. Grab your favorite malt or Green River. Make sure you are wide awake and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Hi, friends. It is nice to see you again on this 1950s Fun Chat. And Jackie and I are just going to kind of bubble over, you might say, with what it was like for us in the 1950s, and particularly in our school. And we want to know if you had some same experiences in your school or something similar as what we did, or maybe you had some funny stories from country school that you'd just like to comment about in the comments, or maybe even get a hold of us and tell us you want to talk about it in a 1950s Fun Chat. So
and also, if you have no idea about what went on in a country school or a small town, this is an education for you.
it is, yes. This is number 211 in our Fun Chats. Fun, fun, fun. And have they ever been reminders of what 1950s were like for you and for Jackie and me and for your parents and grandparents during that time as well. So it's a fun way to recall American history, especially when people who lived it are telling those stories. Jackie, what's in that upper right-hand corner of your screen?
Oh, well, that happens to be While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s, a very modern history of rural living. Now, we will be talking more about that, and we'll be highlighting scenes and quotes from that book. And we also want to let you know that because of that book, and because so many of you are interested in telling your story or story of someone else, that's why the Fun Chat happens. But we're going to start out with a little musical introduction here.
School days, dear old golden rule days, reading and writing and arithmetic, taught to the tune of a hickory stick. You were my queen in calico, I was your bashful barefoot beau, and you rode on my sleigh. I love you, Joe, when we were a couple of kids.
How many of you remember that song from the 1950s, or maybe even before that?
Let me tell you, it was written in 1907, so it's been around a while.
Okay.
And it was written, I want to give credit to Will Cobb and Gus Edwards. They are the creators of that song.
Well, our schoolhouse was on the corner and down on the edge, you might say, of Menoken, North Dakota, right on US Highway 10. And even before that, do you want to let me make that a little bit bigger here?
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, there it is. Yes. So it wasn't a one-room wooden country school. It was a two-story, two rooms on top, two rooms on the bottom, and many other little accessory rooms to go along with it. That became the school in Menoken, North Dakota. And Jackie, when was that built?
The stucco building was built in 1927, and it was very unique because it had running water and a septic system. So that was quite a thing to boast about. Now, this room, the school, even though it was just two rooms for two classrooms, 1 through 4 and 5 through 8, it also had a small library. And it was one of my favorite little rooms because one whole wall was lined with books. It also had a mimeograph machine. And those of you of a certain age might know what a mimeograph machine is and the aroma it emitted when it was working. Now, today's coffee machine is much like that, but that's a relative of that. Mm-hmm. And it also we had two large lavatories, one for the boys and one for the girls. And one of those actually had a shower in it, pretty uptown here. There was a lunchroom, and it had a galley-style kitchen, and the aroma of baked goods would come up the stairs as like a foretaste of, or a smell of what we have as a lunch. We also had a furnace room, a big furnace room that had a weird sounding furnace. It was a coal burning furnace, and at times it would pop, and I think it resembled a gunshot. It was like, what's going on down there? But
and then it would steam over. It was like the steam would, and the water would boil over. I don't know where that was coming from, other than in the furnace or what purpose it was.
Yeah,
it was scary to hear that.
Yes, and so it had a kind of a personality. It had an apartment for our teacher, 3 rooms, pretty uptown again, pretty modern. And it had kind of a mysterious storage room. And it was underneath the stairway of underneath the stairs, the main stairs. And they were, have beautiful walnut wood around it. It was a very pretty staircase, wide. And it housed things such as costumes from former plays. This is a little ballerina costume that I wore in the 1st grade. Because there.
Let me maximize it.
Okay.
There's Jackie, one of North Dakota's the Pfeiffer sisters. Little tutu.
This was, my mom made this. It was a fully lined little tutu here.
Yes.
It also had stored red cotton rhythm band capes and hats, and they were trimmed with gold tinsel. And we thought we were pretty snazzy when we played the rhythm band. It had a Red Wing water cooler. Now, why should we remember that? I don't know. We did. And it would be attending all of our picnics.
Yes, it was unique to see something like that. And it only came out at picnic time. And so it was even more unique that it was only used once. You know what my favorite part of it was?
What?
The push button. You had to push on that silver button, and then the liquid would come out into your cup.
Yeah. So
I really like push buttons.
Those are our. Oh, I wanted to tell you about the procedure. First of all, I guess we'll start at the beginning of the day. The day started at 9 a.m. and we recited the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag, and of course we put our hand over our heart. And the students took turn with the honor of leading this Pledge of Allegiance. There was a little tiny flag up in the corner, then it stuck out at a 45-degree angle, and that was our little flag inside. Of course, there was a big one outside.
But you know, it probably wouldn't have mattered what the school building was like, the country school building, because I would venture to guess that the practice of saying the Pledge of Allegiance and standing up and putting your hand over your heart to do that probably was performed quite often daily in any country school, no matter what the building was like.
That's right. But at 4 o'clock, school was over, and 2 students there was kind of a rotating system. 2 students were then chosen to lower the flag outside. It was a big flag, and often the duo was one older child and one younger student, and then the younger one would learn from the older student. And it was a real honor and privilege to take the flag down, to fold it, and when it had 45 states, it had 45 stars, then the proper way was to fold it in a triangle and have 5 stars on the top. Now, because there are 50 stars on the flag now, I don't believe that is true. I think it's not quite as exacting as 5 stars. But some of you can tell me about that if you know.
Well, I also want to point out, too, that we've written about this in a chapter in our book. And if that begins on page 23, and of course, the book, While the Windmill Watched, went away there, Slice of Rural America in the 1950s. But you will learn more about our school days story starting on page 23.
So my favorite class started at 9 o'clock after the pledge. And it had to do with music. There we go.
Yes. How many you had the golden book of favorite songs in your school? Now, it might not have just been country school. It might have been
town school or city school as well. I think it was very much a favorite for music teachers to use in their schools, or just with the great collection of songs that were in it.
And we also use this one, All America Sings.
Mm-hmm.
I love them both, and I can probably, if we were asked today, we probably have the whole thing memorized, both of them, because we sang it all the time. And the students were allowed to pick out the pieces, and we everything from hymns to American folk melodies to Christmas, just a wide variety of American songs.
Did you have a
favorite song? Oh, I like them all. But no, one doesn't pop. I like, well, now that you mention it, I like Over Hill, Over Dale, as we hit the dusty trail.
The K-songs go rolling along.
Yes. Oh, I like them all, though.
You know what mine was?
What?
Hold up that golden book. And
turn to page what?
And then look at the last page, the inside back cover.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Stoodla Pumpa. How many of you remember? I think it's a Czech folk song. Stoodla, 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 pumpa, stoodla, pumpa, stoodla, pumpa, stoodla, 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 pumpa, stoodla, pumpa, pumpa, pumpa.
Far in the hills, I hear the nightingale. Okay.
And I think that a lot of times, as Mrs. Orange played the piano, we'd repeat that chorus, and then with each time we repeated it, she'd get the tempo faster and faster and faster. So it made it really fun and silly.
Yes, she was a very intelligent lady. She was artistic. She was musical. She laughed willingly, and it was a joy. She loved teaching, and we were so fortunate to be her students.
And she was always dressed so immaculately.
Impeccable.
Yes, she would wear beautiful dresses, professional looking dresses for that era. She always had hosiery on and high heels. Mm-hmm. She had jewelry. Usually the necklaces matched the earrings. And her hair was impeccable. I guess I by her example, I learned that is how a professional needs to dress, especially when you are in the presence and working with young children. It sets an example.
Yes. So let's see. Oh, one thing, because I mentioned she was artistic. Over in the upper right, the one wall was totally blackboard, and all the way across the room, and on the top of that were the cursive alphabet. And then in the right-hand corner was always reserved for Mrs. Arntz's monthly calendar. She would, of course, draw the calendar, but she would appoint that with beautiful artistic picture of the particular month. You know, the Christmas month had something Christmas in it. The October had leaves, etc. Everything. So it was just very fun. I always look forward to the first day of the month to see what she had drawn for us.
I can think too of how she encouraged us. Now, she was our grades 1 through 4 teacher. We didn't have kindergarten, but how she encouraged us to use our creative and artistic skills. And the first thing that I think of is when we made Valentine's card holders using wallpaper books. It was so much fun, or we could decorate them with lace. It was just really, really neat. And of course, I don't know what the boys thought about it, but I thought it was fun. Just to go through those wallpaper books and choose the patterns that I wanted for my Valentine card holder.
Right. So when we heard the words turn, stand, and pass, first of all, we had to be really quiet so we could hear those words. That indicated we were to turn in our seats, stand, and then pass down out the room in an order, quietly, down the stairs to the lavatory restrooms, where we'd wash our hands and stand in line to be let into the lunchroom.
And I think this was the same procedure for before we could go out for recess.
Mm-hmm.
It's the turn, stand, pass, and we went out orderly.
You bet. Mm-hmm. Now then, I've often thought that there was a fuzzy line in North Dakota between church and state, or maybe there wasn't a line at all. But the reason I say that is because it was very not out of the ordinary for us, we students, to sing grace before lunch. And we would all take our places quietly, and then Mrs. Arntz would start the song. And then when she sat down, then the rest of us could sit down too. It was very much a respect, and it was just a common thing. It was just what you did. You were respectful, and you followed the rules, period.
I think parents of the students appreciated that too.
Right.
I want to go back up, and you talked about having a library, and one wall was filled with books. Do you have any favorite books from that?
Yeah, why? As a matter of fact, that's when I got introduced to these beautiful, I mean, there must have been 12 or 13 of them. They're books called by Zane Grey, but they were so beautiful. They had red and yellow, red and blue and gold lettering on the spine. So they were very enticing, pick me up on, and because but our love of reading was, I don't know, Mom always read in the afternoon, or she read to us at the evening, for bedtime. But after lunch is when the teachers would read us from a book that she had chosen. So.
And can you tell us anything about the author Zane Grey? Why he might?
No, he was mainly a Western author, and I think it probably wouldn't have mattered what. I was just so enticed by the covers.
Was he a native of Jamestown, North Dakota?
No, that's Louis L'Amour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think that were we introduced to the Little House books at that time as well?
Yep. Yes, and the Boxcar Children.
Yes, the Boxcar Children.
And they became my favorite because those are the books that Mrs. Arntz would read to us after we'd come in from the noon recess. We have a 15-minute time?
Something like that.
She would read to us. It was a time to help calm us down after being outside, and to really learn to listen to someone reading to us and learn to comprehend while someone else was reading, not just because of our reading abilities.
Right. I think I'm going to go back here to what we learned besides music and literature. This is my math book of I save a lot of things. First grade.
Yes, she does.
So inside, this is the type of thing that we did.
Do you remember, viewers? Do you remember any that doing that?
I do.
Counting?
Viewers.
Yes.
More, but here they are. Another thing was on Fridays we had a civics time, and for younger students, this was our civics thing. Our weekly reader. And I have a couple of years saved, but I do totally remember this one because I thought it was so unusual that someday we were going to see and hear. We're going to have a see and hear telephone. And we've gone beyond that now, haven't we? Because here we are. This particular, they always had something about what's new, and that in science. And then on the inside, it tells about different careers. Well, this one was a career of a lineman. And here's some science news.
Well, viewers, can you recall that weekly reader? And if so, any special stories from it that really attracted your attention?
And on the back, then there was sort of a review right over here, questions, multiple choice that were asked about what we just read. So that was very interesting. And also, what else happened on Fridays sometimes?
Picture study. Picture study. So what's picture study? It was a time when we would learn about the masters, the artists, the masters. And by our teachers, and I believe this was maybe only in grades 1 through 4. The entire room had to listen to Mrs. Arntz read the story about a particular painting, and she would always pass out. It looked like great big postage stamps. And on that stamp was, of course, had a gummed backing that we put on a sheet of paper, and we could follow along with her as she talked about the story of what the artist wanted to get across by painting this work of art. And so those master artists just really had a cultural effect on us in a small way. And then after Mrs. Arntz read the story, then it was up to us to write our own summary of what she had said. And it was another way to reinforce what we had learned about that artwork and also about the artist.
And do you remember the one that was in the back of the room, the Gleaners?
Yes.
Yes, the Gleaners. And I just looked it up. It's 1857 oil painting by French artist Jean-François Millet.
Jean Millet, yes.
Yep.
Yes. And actually we have that picture in our home in a smaller version. It's very
I'm sorry.
Oh, it just, I'm a very much an agrarian person, and that speaks to me every time I see that.
Yeah. Well, we were exposed to many different types, like Salvador Dali's, persistence of memory. And anyway, when I was introduced to all these paintings, and not all, many of them. So fast forward like 30, 40 years, and when I have been in France or in Italy and I see the masterpieces, that rings a bell. Mrs. Arntz told us about that one. Yeah.
Did any of you have a Mrs. Arntz, someone who taught and encouraged her young students? She was a master, and I must say too that we dedicated our book to our mom and dad, Jack and Eudora Pfeiffer, and our Menoken community. But we also had special recognition in the front of the book to Mrs. Arntz, who made such an indelible impression on us as youngsters. And particularly, I think, in understanding the English language and understanding grammar and punctuation and how it's used. So that's what you'll see in this book, folks. That's the evidence of Mrs. Arntz's teaching to Jackie and me.
And because of that, I am sometimes called the grammar police.
It
just grates me to hear, especially newscasters, using incorrect grammar. But okay, I won't use this platform to go on and on. Let's go outside. How about recess? That is often a favorite.
Yes. Okay. Well, recess, of course, was always fun because 15 minutes in the morning, we got a noon recess break, but of course we took a half hour for lunch, so we had extra half hour to play, and then we had a 15-minute recess in the afternoon. Well, what all was involved with recess? We had some playground equipment. We had 8 swings. Yeah, 2, and they were very securely in the ground. And as a matter of fact, some kids loved to swing higher than they should have, or they jumped out of the swing as I was going back and forth. And we'd have some broken arms of kids who would do that just to see who could get the highest or who could leap the farthest. But then we also had a merry-go-round and a slide. We had a baseball field.
Teeter-totters.
Oh yeah, teeter-totters. They were fun. Yes. We had or I should say a baseball field, a softball field. There was a cross arm with poles where I suppose upper grade kids could practice high jump. And that was well, then we also played games of tag, pum pum pull away, drop the hanky. What was?
Well, the little kids played Ring Around the Rosie.
Yes.
But then in the winter, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Fox and Goose, my favorite. I love playing Fox and Goose. And you make a circle in the snow, and of course, cut it into pie shapes. I mean, I was into pie even back then. Now I bake it, and so it was. And
what about sledding in the wintertime?
Oh yes, the just to the west of the school grounds was Mr. Ralph Mallard's land, some of his land. There was a big slough, in a generous portion of this land, but in order to get from the school down to the slough, there was a little hill, and there was a barbed wire fence, and it was not stretched by any means. It was a pretty wavy one, and so kids could climb between those strands of wires and take their sleds through, and we'd sled down that hill. And then, of course, we'd have to work our way up. So we could bring our sleds to school. And I think a lot of students probably got sleds for Christmas just because not only could they use them at home, but they could bring them to school. It was so much fun. And I guess in those days, we didn't worry about liability or anything like that. And too, when we played softball in the spring, the upper grades, so the 8th graders all the way down to 1st graders, they played together and teams were chosen. And those older students watched out for we younger ones and encouraged us as we swung the bat and didn't hit the ball. So it was a lot of fun at Menoken School.
It was.
I want to show you some pictures. These are 1st grade pictures. And do you remember when the school or photographer would come to school and you'd have to get pictures taken, or not have to, you did get pictures taken. They'd take them of the whole class. Well, actually, in probably, it was for us, they'd take group pictures of the upper grades and group pictures of the lower grades. So that's 4 grades in each. And then we would get individual photos taken too. Well, Jackie, and I'm going to enlarge this. This is the cutest one, I think. This was 1st grade. 1st grade. And we always said, she reminds us of Little Debbie. Remember the Little Debbie ad and the Little Debbie on trucks with the Little Debbie snacks? And then that was her 1st grade picture. And this was my 1st grade picture. Oh, and I was so proud of that dress because it wasn't a homemade one. It was one that Mom bought for me. Yeah. But look at our hair. I think we need to point that out too, whether it be Little Debbie or whether it be anyone else. It was just a matter of fact that when we were going to have school pictures, what would happen, Jackie?
Right here. Yes. These babies here. These were home permanent curlers. And first of all, the hair was wrapped around this paper. Mm-hmm. And then the whole thing was wrapped around. And then you'd have this smelly solution put on each one. And then you sat there. And
it just didn't smell. Oh, I'm sorry. It didn't smell, just smell. It stunk.
It stunk, yeah.
Yeah. And I bet you ladies out there, if you've ever had a Tony home perm, boy, that smell is imprinted in your mind. You'll never forget it.
No. And they as they went advanced, I think that Lilt came along and that didn't stink as much as the Tony one. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But anyway, these are the culprits.
And then of course Mom would try to tone down all that curl after she washed our hair with using pin curls and bobby pins all around our hair. And so then it would tame it down a lot. And by having some barrettes, we could, to hold in place, we did look decent. It wasn't just that we were a head full of frizz.
So shall we go on to our favorite county nurse, Miss Jean Norton?
Oh, yes. Yes. Are you okay, you former Burleigh County rural school kids? Do you remember Miss Jean Norton? She was not a very big lady, kind of petite, and wasn't her uniform blue with white trim?
I don't know. I thought it was white and with the white nylons and the white lace-up shoes, Okay. And I don't know if she wore her little hat or not. I don't recall. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she was a very nice young woman, yes. But she came bearing needles sometimes.
Yes. Well, and we would get polio or tetanus and DPT. Yeah, diphtheria, pertussis, and typhoid.
Whooping cough, maybe typhoid.
Oh, okay.
Was it small? No, it wasn't smallpox. Maybe it was smallpox. Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
The smallpox was what we got on our arm. They used little needles
Oh, right.
to make that mark. And that was, I think my mark is, oh, I don't know, but it's right there. And how many of you still have your smallpox vaccination mark? Yes, but it was, and there were some years that we didn't need to get vaccinations because it wasn't the roll around time to get them. But we always heard crying in the hallway.
Yeah. Well, tell about the Sabin and the Salk situation there.
Yes, well, of course, in the early 50s, polio was rampant in the 50s, and perhaps some of you had relatives who might have, the only way they could live was to have survived in an iron lung, was what it was called. But for many people, and we didn't, to the best of our knowledge, we didn't have any cases around the Menoken area of polio, but that polio vaccination became available in the early 50s. And then towards the end of the 50s, it might have been even in the very early 60s, of course, there was that sugar cube that had a pink stuff in it. It was like a liquid. And that was bitter vaccine inside a sugar cube. And so when you ate the sugar cube, that's how you had your polio booster. And it was not, it was really kind of an important thing to do back then. And not just the fact that we children got those shots and those sugar cubes, but there was a time when it was encouraged to adults come to a certain area where these sugar cubes were being dispensed and get their update on polio vaccines. And I think a lot of that happened at schools, at elementary schools, perhaps in the cities. We went to the World War Memorial Building in Bismarck to get ours, and Mom, Dad. Mm-hmm. So fortunately, we never did have those childhood illnesses. We were blessed. Yeah. We were blessed. But let's go on, Jackie, as far as...
Did we finish talking about Mrs. Arndt and her uniqueness? How about the communication system?
Oh, yes. Well, I said that she wore those high heels, and she used them not only to cover her feet and look professional, but that heel, let me tell you, that heel meant business. And so if there were students whispering in the classroom and she was teaching another class, she would stomp that high heel on the floor. And let me tell you, if you were talking, you turned around and behaved yourself and you didn't speak anymore. She wanted order in the classroom. And if we were supposed to study, that's what we did. Then it was also used for another purpose with, as Jackie mentioned, the school teacher's apartment, which was for Mr. and Mrs. Arntz, was in the lower level. And so if Mr. Arntz happened to have been around and Mrs. In the basement, perhaps in their apartment, and Mrs. Arntz wanted him, she used her own method of calling him, and that was to stomp on the floor. And then can't remember if she hollered, Theo, or if he just came up. And so that was the intercom of the day. It was
right. And we didn't, that school did not have a telephone at that time either.
No. We did get a telephone later. It was in one central area, and probably the most important call that I remember that came through on that was when one of the neighbor ladies called and said that President Kennedy had been shot. And
yes, 1963.
Mm-hmm. And so then that was passed on to us in our classrooms, and it was just a chilling experience, very chilling.
Yeah.
Kind of, where were you when
I can remember, but that's another story.
One thing I think we should point out is that our school in Burleigh County in North Dakota, for the rural schools, had what was called the Burleigh County Play Days. Do you remember those, Jackie?
Of course.
Yes. Yes. And the rural school kids would come to Menoken School. And actually, we started out in the town hall, the Menoken Town Hall, which was kind of the epicenter for any activity that had a large crowd. And there was a welcome, a greeting with that. And then we would go to Menoken School, which was about, what, a mile, half mile from the hall. If you were in 1st through 4th grades, you had the opportunity to partake in math competitions. If you were in 5th through 8th grade, if I recall this correctly, you had the opportunity to compete in a spelling bee. Is that what you remember, Jackie?
Okay. Just, I don't remember the age difference. I just remember the two.
Okay.
Yeah, you did the math, I did the spelling.
Yep. And then in the afternoon is when we would have athletic events. Can you tell us about those?
Well, I was evidently a pretty good runner, so I took part in the races and the long jump, the broad jump, and the high jump. Those are the three. Also, I guess I was paired with somebody else, and we did the 3-legged race. And you did that as well, too, didn't you? As a younger one.
Yes, 2nd grade. Sharon Hauser and I,
you left him in the dust.
Practice. Yes, we tied our legs together, and we somehow had this precision and coordination together. Got the blue ribbon.
Woohoo!
For that, yes.
And tell us, when did we get our blue ribbons?
There would have been an event then back at the Menoken Town Hall in the afternoon. That's when ribbons were awarded, and they were cute little ribbons. They were either blue, red, or yellow.
4 inches long, maybe?
Yes, and they were engraved in gold, as far as, I think it just said Burleigh County Play Days, and probably the year. And then the awards for the athletic competitions, along with the school of educational competitions. Well, I don't want to leave it. How can I math, reading, math and spelling were given. So it required quite a few people, quite a few adults, to take charge and do that background work while someone else was supervising the students as we were in these afternoon competitions too. And of course, someone had to check the papers and all. I imagine it was quite an organized competition, but it was fun. I can think of one more event that we might want to talk about and then conclude our school days episode. And that would have been the Burleigh County YCL, Young Citizens League. And I don't know, did any of you viewers take part in a YCL program in your school? It was fun. We had monthly meetings and we had election of officers. And so we learned parliamentary procedure. And then always at the end of the school year, usually April, I'd say it was, we'd have the opportunity to go to Bismarck for the county convention. And that was always held at the Bismarck Auditorium, now known as the Bell. And it was a really fun event. Wasn't just a way for us to get away and be with students or meet students from our county. But it also was a time when, again, there was a meeting. It was conducted by parliamentary procedure. There were county officers. Were there talent events, Jackie?
I don't recall that. I think we might be getting it confused with the 4-H one.
Okay. Yeah. But probably one of the most memorable things was at noontime. Then, when we'd have our noon break, we'd walk over to the Patterson Hotel, which was probably 2 to 3 blocks away. And in one of their upper floors, they had a big ballroom, and there would be tables, lines of tables set up, all set for us to eat our dinner. We called it dinner. That was lunch. And every year, what did we have, Jackie?
We had canned chicken a la king.
Ooh, how about that? I know you didn't like it. I would imagine a lot of we students might have turned up our noses at it, because who on the farm served chicken a la king?
Canned.
Canned.
From a can.
And it was a new dining experience for us. But I would venture to say that a lot of kids went away hungry, and a lot of those plates got scraped, the contents of which were scraped into the garbage.
I remember though they had good rolls. They were probably Wonder Bread sweetheart rolls.
Yes. Well, so then after the meeting, the convention was closed. Do you remember what we did then?
Well, yes, we kind of hung out at Woolworths, waiting for the train to go.
Yes. And why should we take the train home?
Well, that was an experience. I mean, that was, I was either the school board, our parents, or Mrs. Arntz. They knew that how else would you ride the train? I mean, the train is just like a half a mile from the school, but if there was not an occasion, you didn't ride the train. Well, this became an occasion, and it was a gift to us.
And that was the Northern Pacific Railroad passenger train, which went east-west throughout coast to coast, and we would board in Bismarck. And the train stop was east of Bismarck, was known as Burley, and Menoken originally was named Burley. So we would, and it was unusual for that passenger train to stop at Burley, but they did in order to let the Menoken Grade School kids off. And so then we walked about a half mile back to school, and our parents were there to pick us up. It was a wonderful experience. Just the whole day was a wonderful experience that perhaps we had, because versus maybe what a lot of country school kids had, just basically because of the location where we lived. Opportunities that the Menoken School Board and the teachers and the parents allowed us to have in grades 1 through 8.
And as an adult, I am surprised at the number of adults who do not have any idea about Robert's Rules of Order. And just like being a grammar police person, kind of grates me that people don't know how to conduct themselves at a meeting. Anyway, I'm just so grateful that we had that experience.
Yes. And in summarizing for the end of our program today about school days, is there a highlight, Jackie, that you can think of? Are there too many to mention?
Probably. You mean in my 8th grades out in Menoken?
Menoken.
Well, one that is just dear and warms my heart is the relationship that we had with our teacher, Mrs. Arntz. When we went to the 5th grade, we had different teachers. They maybe 1 year or 2 years they might stay there, but Mrs. Arntz was like our grandma, kind of.
Well, I guess Mrs. Arntz was Menoken School.
Yes,
for many, many years. Many years. She really left an imprint on the minds of her students. If I had something to say, this really stands out of my education at Menoken School, it's similar to what we say in the back of our book when we talk about our parents. And I need to find that here. And it says there are only 2 lasting bequests we can hope to give our children. One of these is roots and the other wings. And that's by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. So I might say that that's what the teachers of the school board and the Menoken community and our parents gave to me for being able to reap the beauty of an education at Menoken School. There are too many wonderful things to mention, so I'm just going to culminate it with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So, those of you who are viewing us, thank you for watching. Do come back again. Oh, and notice the banner below. www.wildthewindmillwatch.com has lots of answers for your questions you didn't know you had. So go there, and you'll be able to find out the vendors of our books, where Janine and I will be signing books, where whether all the fun chats are. Because it's 211. We've been very busy, and in 2 weeks it'll be 4 years since we started the 1950s fun chats. And so, until next time, tell your friends, even your relatives about this 1950s fun chat. Till next, toodaloo.